Hello and welcome to 27 by 40, a video podcast about movie posters. My name is Chris.
This is Emmett.
And each week we pick a year at random and we pick our top 5 movie posters from that year. No requirements to having seen the film or liked the movies in any way. It's purely based on the posters themselves.
Yeah. I mean, our choices can sometimes be influenced by our familiarity with the movie or what we think about it. But that
good or bad.
But that's certainly secondary. I mean, that's incidental. It might influence it, but we're picking based on...
I've used it to break ties.
Yeah, but we're picking it based on the presentation of the poster itself.
Yeah. So this week we're doing 1958.
Yep. Yeah. It's our second, I believe, 50s.
Yeah. Because we did
51. I know we did 51.
Yes, we did 51.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. That was the other 50. Yeah. So we're kind of
so
almost bookended the 50s here.
Yeah, which is like fairly typical. Like we did 71, I think, and 79.
Yeah. No.
I think the only one where we've really kind of
90s
been all over is like 90s. We've done because we've done like 4 or something. So,
mostly early 90s.
4 or 5 of them in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
So interesting year for posters. Variety.
Yeah.
Like every style of poster
definitely
heavily represented throughout the year. And none of this they all look the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, even just going from the 53 one, earlier 50s, way more variety.
Which kind of like...
Well, it wasn't 90% Westerns this time.
Well, that helped a lot, yeah. It was, although very big running theme throughout this year was like... it seemed like, and I guess this was just kind of like maybe the era for that. Like, unlike Westerns, this was a lot of like sort of, it was either, I guess, like romances or mysteries. And then the posters had like women in compromising positions.
Yeah, there's definitely more of that type of...
Yeah, and so I feel the posters promised a lot more like lasciviousness than was ever going to be in these movies for 1958. Yeah. Look at the way this, actress is, she's got herself like spread out, or the way she's in distress, or the way, and I'm like, the code is still heavily in effect. There is zero chance.
Although, to be fair, it was around this point that it was starting to really kind of fall apart. Even though, obviously, it technically remains in force until 68, so another 10 years after this. But it was around this time where it was starting to get to where it was kind of like,
you can get away with a little more.
Yeah, because, they were starting to push it a little more, I think. Definitely. Because there had been, I don't remember exactly what year, but there had been like a number of films around this point in the latter 50s that where they had just been like, well, this is what it's going to be, and we're going to let the public decide type of thing.
Yeah, fair.
More so than worrying about like code to code. Because like
we're going to bow to the court of public opinion rather than
because we talked about that a little bit a really long time ago when we did our top 5 50s movies on what we've watched, and stuff like what's the famous one with Marilyn Monroe with the guys doing drag.
Something Like It Hot.
Something Like It Hot. Mm-hmm. Like that was one where it was like the code people definitely had issues with it, and they were and the studio stood behind it and was basically like, no, we're gonna put it out.
And that movie like super famous,
and
it was a big
success. And there was a number of other things around that time, right? Definitely. You're right. I mean, definitely those posters and what they're portraying is probably like a lot more than what you would actually see.
A lot of words like steamy and hot. Yeah, and I'm like, I've seen enough late 50s movies to know.
I mean, for the time, like what they could do, they were trying to. But I mean, like, it's that thing of.
It was just a lot of like your poster's promising this.
Yeah.
I read what the movie's about and I'm like, that just sounds boring.
That being said, if it's a foreign film,
Sure, could be a different story.
It's like French or something like. They
No,
might be able to do a little more.
Did you end up having to dive into anything?
I didn't have to, but I did on purpose. I actually have.
I was going to.
Yeah.
Because actually, Wikipedia, actually, the way it was set up was like kind of set up to.
Yeah.
Because when you look at 1915 film, it included all that.
Notable.
And I was like, there's a lot of movies here. So I'm going to look at, like, I went to a separate page and just had the American releases first.
Yeah.
And then if I felt like I was short, I was going to come. But I was able to get enough from the American ones. I didn't have to. And I sort of regret, I'm like, I wonder if there was something good that I really missed.
You'll see them on my
excellent. Oh, this is good then.
Because
excellent.
I went pretty heavy on the foreign language stuff.
Oh, nice.
And I actually, at one point, I was almost thinking, it'd be like a fun little gimmick would be like if I had all foreign language stuff on this list. I don't.
Okay.
But for a moment there, I was thinking maybe.
I mean, I have a foreign language poster in my.
Yeah.
It's not a foreign language film, but it's the foreign release. Yeah. So from the foreign release.
All right.
Yeah.
So who's first?
All right. You're first up this week.
Oh, exciting.
Yes. So what have we got here?
This is The Big Country.
I saw this one.
I like the aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good way to make use of the. We're just going to put the cast names really big and even like their pictures, technically little headshots.
Just in case you didn't know what Gregory Peck looked like.
Yeah, I think probably the pictures are a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
But given the cast.
The way they frame it. With the
it
text.
works.
Yeah, this was in my like larger picks.
Well, this is Saul Bass.
Yes.
So obviously, he did not only a lot of posters, but a lot of actual title sequences.
Yeah.
Very famous for the aesthetic of the period. That kind of like cool sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is a great example of a poster that uses things that I normally am not a big fan of, like where the poster is mostly just the names of the actors, or where they have little headshots of the actors in there. But it does it in a cool way. Like it's a nice.
They're not just like thrown on there.
Yeah,
this like bad
great.
collage.
The logo
right?
is great.
Just the big country over the sun, and then the tiny silhouettes of them on the horizon there.
Yeah.
A little bit of mountain at the far end.
Yeah, well,
it's very good.
The design of the logo is really cool too.
Yes.
And then the usage of like the stuff at the bottom, the credits,
the symmetry on there with the B and the G.
It looks really good. Yeah. I think it's really great. Yeah. I think it's a great example of a poster that does things that you normally would be like, I'm not into that. Like the little stupid little pictures of the actors' faces, the having the actors' names all just huge and not really having any like art or very little art. And I think it does a great job of taking those things and actually doing something cool with them.
For sure.
Not a big shock with being Saul Bass, but it's pretty great. I don't know if I could ever bring myself to watch that movie because the title always makes me think of there's a band from the 80s.
Yeah, it's called Big Country. Yes, yeah.
And they had a big hit.
It's literally in my head right now. Yes.
Yeah, they had this big hit in the Big Country.
Yeah.
And I hate that song.
Yeah. It's not great. It's not great.
I hate it. It's one of those like big 80s hits where you're just like, nope. Like that's
so annoying.
You don't want to hear. Yeah. It's annoying. And apologies to any Big Country fans out there, but I'm sorry, it's not good.
Yeah. The second I saw this poster when I was looking at posters, that song popped in my head. I was like,
and I feel like
I was angry.
Yeah, and I feel like I couldn't watch the movie because I would just be thinking about that title.
the whole
that
time.
Song would be in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like obviously huge big name cast.
Yeah.
William Wyler, director. Pretty well known director.
I think it's a pretty famous movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous movie. Yeah. So.
Also features this orange.
Yeah.
And then there's like also like kind of like a yellow like background. Heavily featured on a lot of posters this year. It was
it's pretty nice. It's a good aesthetic.
Yeah.
Nice,
excellent. All right. So my number 5. Sort of my minimalist poster.
Yeah.
But I've always liked this poster.
I was on the fence.
Yeah.
I came close. I think probably the deciding factor for me was I don't like the fact that the head is basically the dot for
the eye is a little too much.
That's weird.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of like a Barbie's head that's been popped off and like stuck on a pike or something. Yeah. And the logo itself kind of looks like blood.
Oh, you see, it does look a bit like blood, but it's
so on a
it's like she's wearing a fur.
Yes,
right?
I understand. But on Creep Factor,
it does. There's a horror movie. This looks like a horror movie, doesn't it?
It bothers me just enough that I didn't use it, but it was in my contention list because I also have there's this is gonna get super nerdy.
Yeah,
but the soundtrack record from Gigi is sitting against the wall in the picture from the album cover of Pink Floyd's Amagama album.
Oh, okay.
Which is I forget what they call that, but it's one of those the in cursive like
recursive,
where you have a picture on the wall of the picture that it's in.
Recursive.
And, recursive. Yeah. And then it keeps going down infinitely.
Yeah.
So the cover of Amagama, the Pink Floyd album Amagama, has that, but it also has like sitting down on the floor, leaning against the wall, is the soundtrack album to this movie. So it has this logo and this like all there. So it has this kind of like very iconic status, you know, on that. I mean, obviously it's a very famous iconic movie, anyways. You know,
for me, the reason it hit my 5 rather than a little bit higher, because I really do like this poster, is I feel all the indicia stuff on it takes up way too much of the poster. Yeah. Why is it so huge?
It's huge.
It's huge. I mean, I realized it was mostly, but
and
like,
it's very plain.
I think if it was all that was like dropped a few font sizes,
it doesn't need to be that.
Because I don't even mind the the first Lerner Loewe musical since My Fair Lady. That's standard poster stuff. You're gonna get that on there. Yeah. But like, why is it almost feels like it's encroaching on the.
I like how they say the first Lerner Loewe musical since My Fair Lady, as if My Fair Lady had been like decades prior. Like,
I know.
Only a few years earlier. Like it's just like it's the next one. Like
but you gotta remember, this is an era.
I know.
Where like 2 a year was the standard, right?
I know,
so
yeah.
The fact that they hadn't come out with one since it was a bloody,
Yeah.
All right, so you're number 4.
Yeah. So this is the first full foreign language thing. So I think it's Lake of the Dead is what it translates to, or what the English title was. It's a Norwegian film, like a sort of a noir mystery kind of thriller thing. I thought it was really interesting.
That's good. I like it. It looks like a book cover.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting art style. And it has that enough of the sort of what do you call it's different from your typical 50s kind of aesthetic, and I don't know if that's just because it's foreign, or whatever.
Could be.
It has a very sort of European kind of feel.
Well, when you get away, as soon as you get away from like some of the sort of like the Hollywood standard, you start seeing a little more.
Yeah, and this seems to be a pretty well-known like movie. It has if you look it up, it's like there's a lot of stuff out there about it. There's a lot of screenshots. It looks like really good quality. There's good releases of it and stuff. So it seems like
maybe
it's
an episode. Maybe what we've watched episode.
Yeah, maybe
it depends on how hard it is to get a hold of.
I don't know, but yeah.
No, that's a good poster.
But it caught my eye as like a different kind of like I really like the artistic.
Is it just me, or does the moon look like an eye? The tree line look like a mouthful of teeth, and then like this bit next to the eye looks like hair covering up the other eye. So this kind of looks like a monster face right below the title there. Am I seeing something that's not actually there? Kind of like I don't know something. Yeah, I think I'm seeing something. I mean, maybe you said it's just a mystery. It's not a monster, but it looks spookier than I think it is.
I mean, it's certainly intended to be spooky.
Yeah. No, but it's good.
Spooky
that's
little
good
sort of
poster.
Forest. Yeah. This little spooky lake.
Yeah, I'm immediately regretting not looking at foreign films now, seeing how good this poster is.
Oh, dude, wait till you see this coming. Oh, dude,
nice.
You're gonna lose.
This is sort of like a little bit inverse, because now I feel a bit like how you felt last week. How about you were like, I just hit all like the mainstream hits. Yeah, because I feel I did a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
So speaking of my number 4, This is my foreign film.
Oh, is this The Fly?
It's The Fly. This
That
is the
is
Italian,
good.
I believe the Italian, or no, the Hispanic release of the Hispanic translation release of The Fly. Yeah, they make The Fly look so amazingly hideous.
Well, and just in general, it is a good.
Yeah.
La
Mosca.
I will say the actual poster for the film
is pretty good.
The real
too.
poster of the film, it's not bad. It's very iconic. It's very classic, but it's just not so much personally to my taste.
Yeah, same.
Like,
same.
it's a good enough poster that it's like, oh yeah, like this is a classic movie. This is a great movie.
I got here because I saw The Fly and I'm like, that's a pretty good poster. I'm like, there must have been a ton of movie posters for The Fly. And I just hit IMDb and this was just like right in there. And I was like, oh,
no,
great,
this is
perfect.
great. This is really good.
Yeah.
Definitely way better than the regular one, even though the regular one is fine.
Yeah.
But this is awesome.
Yeah. All the screaming faces.
Which is like the only thing that's actually from the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because The Fly does not look like...
This image definitely does not
This
happen.
scene does not
Warning,
appear.
this does not happen in the movie.
Yeah. At no point is there a giant fly with one giant hook nose beak
with
thing.
like a lady who's apparently been on like a castaway on an island. Because she's all like in shambles and I don't understand what's happening there, but it's great.
Yeah. No, big. I think the fact they went with just the stark white background also makes it like super stand out versus like almost the other Fly posters are all like it's like black background and then like usually like the Fly monster in some kind of like transformative state.
Yeah.
But
that's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Your number 3.
Yeah. It's The Old Man and the Sea.
Huh.
Ernest Hemingway or adaptation of
Yeah,
Spencer Tracy. I really enjoy like the artwork is beautiful.
I miss this.
It has a very interesting layout.
Yeah, it does.
I guess it kind of looks a bit like a newspaper column sort of.
Sure.
Going down the, but yeah, like a really interesting.
Almost feels like reverse to how they usually do these posters.
Yeah.
Usually, like the art would be at the bottom and the title would be at the top, and like they went the other way around. Yeah.
The logo is really interesting with being just like the 6 3-letter words, all just bam, 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 bam.
It very convenient that they're all 3 letters. It lines up very nicely.
I don't think that was an accident. Obviously, that is.
Well, what I mean is like whoever did the graphic design on this was like, oh, I have an opportunity here. Yeah.
But I think Hemingway titled it that way on purpose,
for sure.
Because it has that snappy, like, boom, boom,
Oh,
boom,
yeah,
boom, 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 boom. Just
he knew what he was doing.
Just 6 3. Because, Hemingway was really big on his, keeping things very tight and very clipped. And but yeah,
the painting there looks like the guy's about to take it out on whatever those little words say with his oar. He is tired of whatever these words.
I like how it's like the old man in the sea, and it's like this
some
like,
young
super
dude.
ripped like old like mythic hero guy. Which I mean, maybe that makes sense in the story because I don't know, maybe there's like flashbacks or something, or maybe there's another character. I don't know. I do have to admit I'm not actually familiar with the story that much. At all. I know the title and I know it's Hemingway and I know that Spencer Tracy stars in the film. Yeah. But that's literally basically all I know.
Yeah. But no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I totally missed this one. I
believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the book that he's reading in the first Equalizer movie with Denzel Washington.
Yes, it is.
When he's reading
when he's at the diner.
At the diner.
Yeah, it absolutely
I believe that's the book he's reading. So that's like my latest brush with The Old Man and the Sea, apart from this. But yeah, I just thought it was really nice. Another different, that's the other thing.
I really like how the title just lines up all neat and tidy like that.
That's the other thing is like, I think with this list, I kind of lucked out a bit on having like, it's like everything's so different. Like there's so many different styles of things and not just different from each other, but like stuff that's like different from like the typical what you normally see. Like I would say I haven't had any of the stuff on my list so far has not been sort of stereotypical 50s style posters. None of them have had that kind of, like
I'm wondering I'm wondering if maybe like late 50s moving on to like the early 60s is like a time of starting to see like experimenting a bit there. We've already done a single 60s, right?
And when was it?
67, I think.
Have we done any 60s?
No, we haven't done any 60s. So that kind of explains. Somehow we have not.
Well, because I feel like we're a bit reluctant on it because of how we kind of generally feel about 60s movies. But but now,
I mean, I'm just
it might be interesting. It might be interesting to see where it goes after this. Anyways, so that's my
that's your 3.
3, yeah. So
all right, so on to my 3.
Yeah.
I went with the Blob.
All right.
I really like this poster. Yeah. I love the big Blob font. I love it's got the whole...
Well, the Blob, I mean, it's a classic logo. It's
the logo. I like how they got the indestructible, nothing could... Like, it's got that...
Okay.
It's got a vibe to it that actually feels like a lot older than the movie itself.
I have a problem with the fact that the first thing has... the dots, like the
and then the other two
don't. The other two have exclamation marks.
Why does it have dots?
It's indescribable, indestructible. Nothing could stop. It's like I don't know. That doesn't work.
Why does?
But that's a real nitpick.
No, it is a bit strange though. Why the dots? What the? I wonder if it's just like no, that's correct grammar, and it's just like that's why they did it. But it's got the giant blob eating the diner there.
Yes.
It's happens.
Which in the film is a photograph
superimposed
of the diner.
Photograph.
Oh, it's not even it's superimposed. It's literally a photograph, and then the blob.
That's right. They put the blob on top of the photograph.
Going over top of the photo.
It works.
Absolutely,
it works.
Yeah.
But it.
I mean, it's a great movie. Obviously,
it's a little. It was on the nose, but I just kept going back to it and going. I really like how this poster looks.
I mean, it's nice. It's aesthetically pleasing. It has nice colors.
Again, it's one of those ones where white background, so it really pops. You can really see what they don't. It's not like, I mean, the black background poster isn't something that really started to come up till like the 80s, I think, where we started getting that. That was not
maybe the 60s. We don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We got to see some 60s.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll roll some 60s.
Yeah,
we need 60s
or 2000s.
Or 2000s.
Early 2000s would be great.
Yeah, it would be sort of the big.
But it's nice. It's it'd be on my also rounds. I didn't pick it, but it sort of just missed the cutoff type of thing. But it's fine.
Yeah.
The movie's great, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. So your number 2.
Yes, sir.
The
Hidden Fortress. I mean,
it's very good.
Classy.
Mm-hmm. It's so unlike because this is
100% Japanese.
Yeah, this is not like the Japanese.
It's not even like a
full like no frame, full like that is how they did their movie
totally
posters.
Different,
I mean, straight up until they started having a much more Western influence on their like in the 90s. Like their posters still look like this in the 80s.
Yeah.
Which totally sets it apart from, big title all the way down the side there.
Yeah.
And it's got that like at first I was like, is that? It's like such a good painting. I was like, wait, is that a still like a composite still from the movie? Nope, no, that's a painting. No, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah.
And Fortress, big influence on Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It was like one of the big.
I've only seen bits and pieces of it. I've never seen the whole film.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's a good one. You going dipping into the foreign has really found some gems.
And it's so like dynamic and like just like the look on his face and just the I mean Mifune had a great face anyway.
Yeah.
He was just like a really good. Kind of
expression
actor.
Mm-hmm.
It's Hidden Fortress.
That's great.
Classic.
That's great.
Really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember a few of the other ones we did. I tried to dip a little bit into
like Japanese
stuff.
There was another one I noticed that there's like a kaiju movie from this.
Oh yeah,
from '58.
Yeah,
but it like wasn't like one of the big names ones that was like. Something something
oh
monster.
right.
And I was like, that's all right, but it doesn't quite have the same it doesn't have the oomph.
For me, what's the big thing was like sometimes it was so hard to find like stuff about them. I'm like, I don't like, is this like an actual movie or what was this? Because like some of the information, but like being like obviously this is such a famous film that makes it a lot easier. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well known one. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right. My number 4.
You mean 2?
2. Sorry. My number 2. My 4th one, but
yeah. Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. Yep. It was all on my all surrounds.
Yeah, yeah. I've always liked this poster. It's one of my favorite places to dine has this poster, like huge version of this poster up on the wall.
Well, it's definitely it's very like it's a very iconic kind of example of a certain like element of the kind of late 50s aesthetic of like where like obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but like if you're just focusing on a certain aspect, it's a very like quintessentially like of that time, you know.
I really appreciate that clearly the artist has no idea how big 50 feet is because she's like 200 feet tall in this.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, she's Godzilla sized almost in this.
But it's a poster. It's an artistic impression. It's not meant to be a literal interpretation.
I think my only thing that sort of stopped this from actually being my number one.
I'm sure in the movie itself, the scale isn't always perfect.
Yeah.
Because it never is.
Yeah, no. It varies depending on what you need the person to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that stopped this from actually being my number 1 was I'm not super jazzed about the font, the title font there. It's very like kind of functional. It does have the like where the 50 is in like highlighted. But I kind of wish it had a little more creativity to go with like the very well done painting.
I think
but it's simple enough it doesn't detract, right?
There's not much you could have really done with it with the space that they had.
They needed something that fit. It needed to be...
Yeah, they needed to just make it like a block and have it be fairly simple.
Couldn't go too wild, yeah.
You know.
But...
so, I think it works that way.
Yeah.
I think it works just fine that way.
Yeah, definitely scene does not happen in this film movie, or poster, but yeah, no, this is one of those ones.
But it gives me right impression.
I wasn't even aware that this was when we started this, that this was a 58 film, and so when I came across it, I was like, oh, great, yeah, I love this poster. I've seen it many times, and I was...
lucked out there.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a much older movie, actually, because sometimes I associate with kind of like these kind of movies from this era, I don't know what you call this. It's not like... I guess it's like kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of the horror movies from like 57, 58, 59, around like the late 50s, I think of them as, because often they were black and white versus a lot of stuff was starting to become color, and I think of them as much older than they are.
And
it's like, oh no, those were like almost 60s movies, and I'm like, oh, in my mind, those are like early 50s movies. But
you know what really messes with your mind is The Fly.
Oh, right.
Is color.
Yeah.
And like a big, nice, full color, great looking movie.
Yeah.
The sequel, the second Fly movie, is in black and white and like way lower budget.
Oh, okay.
And they basically were just like...
Well, what was the second one? I haven't seen it, so...
Like 60 or something.
Oh, okay, so a couple of years.
Yeah, it was like a little bit later, but they actually went kind of backwards. It's like a cheaper black and white movie versus the original being like a big color...
Right.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I feel we need a modern, good special effects version of the 50s.
Well, there has been a fairly modern version, but you know, because it's basically a B movie, like
it's a B movie.
It's a very like modern B movie type of movie, so it's not it's not going to be anything. Well. A concept like this is a bit hard to pull off. Sure. And it's something that's meant to be like serious. Like, you kind of have to do it as a view movie. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. All right. So on to your number 1.
Yeah. Well, no shock there. Oh. So let's bookend with the other Saul Bass toaster of 58.
Well, no coincidence.
Yeah.
My number 1.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. It's such a great poster.
Yeah.
It was kind of the moment we were doing 58, I'm like, well, I know what the Vertigo poster looks like, so this is going to be... I mean, not knowing much of anything else from 58, I was like...
Well, that's always the thing of, like, when we find the year, it's always that thing of, like, okay, like, what was, like, the biggest... Like, what's the most famous movie from that year?
Yeah.
And then it's like, does that have a good poster?
Yeah.
Because
often
doesn't
not
necessarily.
The case. No.
Like it may be that like whatever is the biggest, most famous movie of that year doesn't necessarily have a good poster. You know, but that's always like the go-to of like that's what I think first is like, what was the biggest movie or like most famous movie that year or most iconic movie of that year?
Yeah.
And what does its poster look like?
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes it turns out like, oh, it's nothing special, and then other times it's like, oh yeah, all right.
Yeah. And I just like I've always liked this poster.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so this was going to be the one to beat, and it was not beat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, and that's it's partly the reason why I went with Big Country, because I was like, you know, it'd be fun here if I just like bookended the thing with the two orange Salvas posters. Yeah. Even though they're quite different, but yeah, I mean, obviously, ridiculously awesome font.
Yes, it's all like wiggledy higgledy.
Yeah, it's all kind of weird and off kilter.
Yeah, both, and it's used in both the title and in the credits names there. Yeah.
Yep. And the sort of spirally thing and the
spiral doodle.
Yeah, spiral doodle. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's Vertigo. It's one of the most iconic, you know.
Yeah, really.
Sort of.
It was hard not to make it not make it my number one, and so I was like, well, it felt almost like if I felt if I made anything else my number one, I was just kind of like trying to force the not obvious choice,
right.
And so it's like,
which I can understand
because I've done that sometimes with the top five, you know, in the past. On the podcast where I've been like, this is, but like, it's so on the nose, it's kind of boring to talk about, and so like I'll put it lower and make something else. And in this case, it was just like it's such a good poster, and I mean it's also a fantastic movie, which you know, in terms of my picking it was not neither here nor there, but. Something I didn't notice till just now, though, that it's interesting and this is something that happened here and there in various one-word title posters. The word Vertigo is in quotes.
Yeah.
Which or half quotes. I don't know what they call that. I'm wondering, curious, why they did that, but because it's like not anywhere else where you would see the movie title would it be in little quotes like that.
Yeah.
But there must be a specific reason for them doing that.
Yeah, maybe they just thought it looked interesting as like, because it's the title.
Yeah.
And so they were just like, Vertigo.
Yeah. Interesting choice for them not to center it too, like on the bottom, like just put it to the side but keep the art centered right in the middle. Which, it's great. Yeah. All right, so ties for I believe we had a tie for our number one last week too. So
sometimes straight minds think alike.
Sometimes the best poster's the best poster.
Yeah, that too.
But yeah, no, I am.
I actually wasn't sure because I wasn't sure how much you like the Vertigo poster. So
I see.
I thought it might be one of those ones that you might decide that. Like, oh, you're not you like it, but you're not like super into it. But you would have known that I would have it, so you would be like, I can safely skip it. Type of, I thought it might be one of those kind of situations. So that's great though.
Yeah, I almost had the like, do I need to pick Vertigo because I know it's going to be on Emmett's list?
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, but that gives us a common
Absolutely.
one to talk about, which is always fun.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I mean, and for this, I think it works because it's like. You just go with whatever your picks are.
Yeah. You don't have to. I'm not. I don't have to game it too hard for content, kind of deal, But yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, it turns out 58 good year for posters, both just in terms of variety.
I was really impressed.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
Considering coming off of 96, which was like a desert of crap.
There was even a few of those kind of like. Silly comedy ones that are like normally I'm like not a fan of a lot of times that I thought were like okay, like I was like if I had to use these, like if somebody was like okay you have to make a list but it can only be of the like silly comedy ones, I'd be like all right, I think I can do this, whereas like in a lot of the other years it's like no I can't do it, they're too bad, they're terrible, so yeah.
The other one that almost made my list, The Lost Missile. This was one that was the one that was most close to being on my list. And it's so like
I didn't see that listed.
I can't remember where it was, like in terms of the the release. But being that I was only looking at the American releases, but
Robert Loge.
Yeah, the original schlock classic. And it's even got a wide style poster as well, which a number of the 50s ones had both. I guess that was still in favor during that time. But yeah. So, time to spin the wheel and find out what we're going to do next. Looks like it's...
Oh, well, we were just talking about that, and we hadn't done any 60s.
So here's 69. It's right on the edge of 70s, too.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean, we've done 71, so I would have preferred maybe
was it
something
71
a little...
or 73 we did?
It was 71.
71.
So I would have preferred something maybe a little earlier, but that's all right.
Yeah.
We've never done 60s, so we can't complain about that.
Yeah. No. Nice. All right. So 1969 will be our next episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with that episode. Until then, I'm Chris.
This is Emmett.
Cheers.
Bye bye.